Now, as I go to sit back down this direction here, I've got him really wound up. Like Aaron was saying, our shoulders suck, but even if somebody's got good shoulders, this is still nasty. What's up, guys? It's Eli Knight here with Knight Jiu-Jitsu, and I'm here with my man, Aaron Jannetti. I've got him wearing my gear today, so that's cool. I always appreciate the support. He's amazing. I want to talk about North-South. It's been a while since I've done a video on North-South, and I always like to collaborate with this guy because he's always got really cool insight. Freshly minted new black belt over here too, so great techniques. And we got to talk about North-South after our little course that we did this weekend. And we're going to share some of our favorite things from North-South. Let's talk about the position to start with. There's different ways to ride North-South. You can be a lot more like smothery and oppressive, or you can be a little more cagey with it. And I like the cagey one. There's benefits and there's pros and cons to each style that you might do. The way I like to think about it is like I want to segment his body into different quadrants, and my head is going to monitor the hip over in this quadrant, so temple to his hip. On the other side, I want to monitor his hip with my hand. On this side over here, I'm kind of floating and monitoring with my arm, and then finally my hips are in the top quadrant. The position winds up looking something like this here. So when we're in this kind of position here, what this does, it allows me to keep my shoulder in his middle abdomen or his lower abdomen. So if you have really flexible, like dynamic people that want to like slip out the back and turn and invert and try to take your back from here, it inhibits that from happening. So that's good. And then also monitors his hips and his shoulders. So we can set up most anything from here. If this is the position here, we can set up our classic like north-south choke off of this position. If I want to set up the north-south choke, then just a basic intro to that is where I'm going to slip the arm underneath. I want to stay over in this quadrant. I'm going to use my ribs down toward the floor, and I want to use that to push into the bend of my arm deeper. So I'm getting nice and deep over here with my left arm, and I'm using my ribs to keep his face in the upward orientation so that it slides me into position right there. Now this hand here, I can go around his arm or in front of his arm, depending on what he allows me to do. And then whenever I go down to finish this, I want to drop my ribs back even farther, and I want to move my ribs toward that side here. Now, so what's happening underneath his neck is I've got this arm turned up. It's going to be thumb in the upward orientation. This actually softens the choke, so this keeps it a little bit tighter. And then my second arm is creeping up in there to make even a deeper kind of fulcrum for that choke. I don't have to squeeze. If you find yourself squeezing in a north-south choke, you're probably off on the technique and you're not going to get as much mileage out of it. There may be a little squeeze, but for the most part, it should just be structural, where I'm pushing my ribs to shove his neck over into the bend of my elbow. My shoulder is going to be down here toward the base of that, like, what is that called? A sternal notch down here. Totally. Right? Yeah. And then again, I'm using the alignment and walking my body this direction, so it's stretching his neck. A stretched out neck is always an easier neck to choke, and that's a good principle to go by. So just for the basic application, that's the thing that most people go to right off the bat from north-south is a north-south choke, but there's so many other good options. Mm-hmm. What do you like to do from there, Aaron?
So well, you like to cage. Mm-hmm. I prefer to smother.
There you go.
So
I could have guessed.
Yeah, if you're on your back. And again, just as a smaller player, oftentimes, especially against bigger guys, I like to ride pretty much as high as I can up towards the shoulder, lock the shoulders down. I'm a little less threatened by the shoulders than I am by, kind of working my way up towards the hips. So when I go, I'm thinking very similar to what you're talking about. And oftentimes, as I'm going to approach this, I'm looking to post both of my elbows inside of the space in between the elbows and the knees as far as where Eli's at. So I'm going to ride a little heavier this way. And so similar to what you were doing with the finish of this north-south choke, I'm just looking at structurally, right? And it's oftentimes how we look to do like a really heavy ride from here. One of my favorite things to do right out of the gate, even if I'm just looking for like baseline control, is I start to kind of scoop underneath the elbow on this side, and I'll start to ride this elbow on the far side to come back and across. And then once I can snake back and across, I can snake my hand and I get it right over top of the forearm or the forehead. And now I've taken away a lot of the movement of your body. I've got you not only just a cross face, but I have that kind of nasty, almost one-handed gift wrap across the top of the head. One of the things that was super beneficial the first time I learned it is instead of trying to wrap this all the way underneath the head, oftentimes I'll stop using just the ridge of my forearm right across the forehead at the top, and you get a lot more crank out of the neck. So even in that case, just, again, it's not maybe a finish, but getting structure and just shutting down his ability to be able to truly move really starts to open me up for a lot of stuff from here. One of my favorites, if I can establish this position, is to go into the Trab Lock or the Scorpion Lock, as some people would kind of look at it. So for the Trab Lock, Scorpion Lock, I'm looking to have this arm kind of tucked underneath my armpit, right? So I want to have my armpit pulling down on his wrist, and I want to have this good position holding on to his elbow here. Oftentimes people will give me this if I'm riding super heavy in this top position anyway, because they kind of get a false sense of security about wanting to wrap my upper body up, especially if I start to kind of take that top arm away from them. So they'll establish and give me this anyway. I'm going to hook underneath, I'm going to pull, and what I'm looking to do to go to finish the Trab Lock, I essentially need to get my hips oriented the same direction as Eli's hips, but to keep him from rolling away from me or rolling into me, I need to at least capture one leg, if not get my other leg over top of it, over both of his hips, right? So from here, as I'm going to lean back, I want to, at a bare minimum, get one leg kind of locked inside. Preferably, I kind of capture across both this direction. I'm going to try to be nice in this position again, because Eli and I both have some pretty tight shoulders. But as you start to look, I'm essentially creating like an Americana out of the arm in this case. Generally speaking, to go to make the finish, I'm going to get both arms underneath that elbow. And now, again, very slowly, very controlled, I'm going to kind of bring my body and my hips up. But again, that kind of heavy, smothered riding into here causes quite often people to want to try to find openings and things, and they usually will expose this arm on this side. Okay, so again, I really like to go in, ride super hard across that way, or again, using both those concepts, pinch that wrist in, start to slide my hips through, again, being as ginger as possible, and a bare minimum, I'm getting a hold of one of his hips legs, and then I can finish my lock out there. That's one of my favorite, for me, pretty darn high percentage locks, because a lot of people just don't really see it coming, that kind of Scorpion Lock idea there.
Yeah, it is. There's such a temptation for me on the bottom to like want to wrap like that, and a lot of people do. Even people that know better than to do that, they'll still do it.
Myself included.
Yeah, and that is like for that move. If people who are good at it, it's a high percentage move.
Yeah,
a lot I like to ride it more caged in style. So you're seeing already. There's pros and cons to each. The thing I like about the cagey style is that it gives me little pockets of space. So it's kind of like I'm giving him little temptation portals like to go through to try to like escape or try to like counter the position. So when we get here, one of the benefits of me having my arm over in this direction here is I'm going to scoop up. So whereas like with Aaron doing that Trab Lock, you have to go under the arm and then eventually you come around from the outside. I'm going on the inside for this like bicep to bicep. So I'll ride the position similar to this, and if I can get this one scooped up, what I'm going to look to do is I'm going to push myself back and I'm going to get my hand as high up on his chest as possible. Now what he's going to, even if he wants to keep his arm in that orientation, whenever I drive my weight forward here like this into his ribs, that's going to make that arm come off because it feels like it's going to simultaneously break his arm and his ribs at the same time. It's really miserable. But now it puts that hand in front of me right there. So I'm going to collect it. And once I make that Kimura connection, I'm going to slide my knee up behind his back to save that space. And I want to come over in front of his head. And now I have the ability possibly to finish the Kimura. If you're having trouble finishing the Kimura, you still have the wrist lock here like that. If you're into that kind of thing, you also have the ability to go into leg scissor chokes. If I go into the leg scissor choke right here, this is really a nasty one as well, and you can maybe finish with that. And what I'm doing to finish this one is I'm extending the legs. I'm not squeezing and curling back. That doesn't do anything. I'm going to extend the legs out, and it's that vice kind of choke right there that's really nasty. If we find ourselves in that position and I'm having trouble ripping this away because he's got a good strong defense right here and I'm having trouble releasing that grip, a variation that we can look to do from here is we can go into the Tarikoplata. The Tarikoplata from here is where I'm going to grab a hold of my leg. I'm going to make sure that his legs are clear. I want to throw this leg over so that his wrist now is in the bend of my knee. Keeping that hand on my thigh, I'm going to post my hand on the floor this direction, and I want to turn and rotate my body toward my left on this side. At that point here, it starts to separate that connection, and then we get that really tight, nasty shoulder lock off of it that way. It's also a bit of a compression feeling lock too on his forearm. There's a lot of pressure there, and that's what makes it very difficult for him to resist it just by bringing his second hand in to support and stop that Kimura from happening.
So again, kind of smothering riding, the way that I like to kind of be into this position. If I start going to threaten this, oftentimes guys will start to realize, especially players inside of the gym, right? They start getting used to your game. They start realizing when things are traps. And so they start to kind of pull that arm away, or they try to look for other things. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to catch the wrist as they go to do that, and I'm going to pin that down to the ground. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to essentially baseball slide, and I'm going to step my right hip over, collect that elbow, and now I'll bring my weight up and I have that kind of set up, and I hit this a lot on people. From here, I mean, gosh, just tons of stuff. So obviously, demoralize anybody that you can with wrist locks. That's always like the greatest option. One of the things that'll oftentimes happen when we get here is initial responses, especially from players that are maybe a little less comfortable with it, is they'll kind of like want to turn in, and when they go to do that, the feet start kind of coming towards me. And it doesn't matter if it's his left leg in this case or his right leg, but as that motion kind of comes in, I'll collect that up, and I have access to just basic toe holds off of both of those legs. Doesn't really matter which one, right? I look for my orientation. Anytime I'm thinking about a toe hold, I think about lining my thumb up with the big toe as far as orientation goes, and then my outside hand is doing essentially like a rear naked choke around the outside. Again, I can do kind of like the squeeze grip. I can go thumb in with my scoop grip, and then I'm looking again to break and pull everything in nice and tight. And again, it doesn't really matter how you do that. If this, again, if the inside knee comes up, I find the same exact thing. I just switch the positions in post. I have my things there. So toe holds, super awesome as far as that goes. Another one that I'll spend a lot of time kind of getting set up. Once I get into this position, I'm going to back step this outside leg. So I always want to keep, at least for me, I always think about keeping this elbow up off of the floor. So I keep this elbow up off the floor. I'm going to post with my inside arm, and I'm going to go to back step. But I'm not going to back step like super wide. What I'm going to think about doing is, as I go to back step, I just want to get my knee to the other side of Eli's head. And then once I collect Eli's head, I'm going to think about bringing my knee to my own foot. And then now from here, whether you like to finish topside triangles, set up things that way, you can go ahead and make those finishes. I don't have a ton of success with topside triangles, so usually what I'm going to end up doing is pulling you through, rolling, maybe finishing a triangle from bottom position. And then last thing, again, just kind of target-rich environment from right here. Can always do our roll through and go for another omoplata, right, which is just basic classic, keep the elbow up off. I go ahead, make my tuck, my roll him the whole entire way through, and then I can start to break down his structures, work my omoplata positions from there. So.
Here's one that I discovered by accident, and then I started to reenact it on purpose, and it actually became something that works. So,
awesome.
And again, this is another one where if I get to this north-south position, I'm going to give him like way too much space. So in other words, what I'm doing is like I feel like rather than him trying to wrap or frame or whatever, he's really trying to escape with rotation, right? So he's trying to turn toward me or away from me. And so if I feel like that's the thing, then whenever we get in this position, I feel like he's trying to get out that way. So I'm going to give him extra space to do it. So now as he's starting to like post up that way here, what I'm going to look to do is I'm going to take my outside leg and I want to thread it through that pocket. Because if he's trying to rotate out that way, he's going to post up on that elbow most likely. So once I thread this through here this way, I'm going to connect my my ankle to my knee. So now we essentially are into this crucifix. My arm that was around here like this, monitoring that hip, is going to swim back, and I'm going to collect him in this like really nasty tight crucifix. And now as I go to sit back down this direction here, I've got him really wound up. Like Aaron was saying, our shoulders suck, but even if somebody's got good shoulders, this is still nasty. If it's legal in the context that you're doing it, then I think one of the most immediate submissions from here is the neck crank. And on the neck crank, kind of like Aaron was saying a while ago with one of his first techniques, I don't want to go down by the neck. He's very strong here, right? So I want to go toward the top of his head. So I'm going to go knuckles against his head, palm facing away. Second hand's going to come in S grip. And I want to pull his ear to my chest. It probably won't make it before he has to tap off of it like that. Now, maybe that's not legal for the context that you're operating within. Maybe the rules of the tournament or whatever you're doing doesn't allow that. We can always go here. I can backstroke and then shoot back for a more traditional crucifix. And then you're, again, another target-rich environment is a crucifix. You've got so many different options that you can do off of here. You got arm attacks with the legs. I've got 30 different crucifix videos. Go watch those if you want more options from there. But that has been a really cool one for me. And it's really one of those things where it's like I want to give the guy an escape route where I know his only real method of escaping, so that then I can use that to my advantage, set it up, and then attack him based on that. The benefit of north-south over side control in a lot of cases is that ability to attack both sides of the body equally. So here's some different ways that you can do that, and hope those are helpful to you guys. Appreciate you, brother.
Always.
If you guys are ever in Hilliard, Ohio, go to Endeavor Defense and Fitness, where this guy operates out of. He's got all the good stuff up there, lots of kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, everything like that. If you ever want to see both of us in action together, come to a KCC course, Knife Control Concepts. We do them all over the nation, kind of all over the world. Like, we're kind of international now, so that's pretty cool. And of course, if you're ever in the Charlotte area, Charlotte, North Carolina, come see me at Charlotte Jiu-Jitsu. Train out there with me. And otherwise, look for one of our seminars. And I'm going to quit talking now because this video is over. I appreciate you guys watching. Like, subscribe, share, do all the things. Thank you.